Good afternoon, children. How are you, children? Hope you all are fine by God's grace. Today, let us continue Moral Science class with lesson 5. Whose responsibility is it? Whose responsibility is it? Last class, you learned students' responsibility at school, at home, and at classroom. Today, we are going to learn the story given in your book, page number 31. Children, you can turn your book to page number 31. Let's read. Not our responsibility. The king sat with his minister on the balcony of his palace. He was eating puffed rice balls with honey. So the king was sitting with his minister on the balcony of his palace, and he was eating puffed rice balls with honey. The meaning of puffed rice means a form of rice in which the rice grains are expanded to a volume that is several times larger than the original size. As the king leaned over to look into the street below, a drop of honey fell on the top of the ledge of the balcony. From the balcony of his palace, the king looked into the street. At that time, a drop of honey fell on the top of the ledge of the balcony. Oh, sir, let me wipe that up. Never mind, it is not our responsibility. The servants will clean it later. The minister asked the king, "Shall I wipe the honey?" King replied, "No need. Never mind, it is not our responsibility. The servants will clean it later." As they talked, the honey dripped from the top of the wall and fell plop into the street below. The king did not allow the minister to wipe the honey, so the honey dropped from the top of the wall and fell on the street. A fly came to feast on the honey, so there came a fly to suck the honey. A lizard came to eat the fly. Next came a lizard to eat the fly. A cat saw the lizard and pounced on it. There came a cat to catch the lizard. A dog passing by saw the cat and attacked it. Next, a dog was passing by. It saw the cat and attacked it. "Sir, a cat and dog are fighting in the street. Shall I call someone to stop it?" "Don't bother. It's not our responsibility." The king continued to munch his puffed rice balls and honey. Now the minister saw the cat and dog fighting in the street. Minister asked the king, "Shall I call someone to stop it?" The king replied, "Don't bother. It's not our responsibility." The king was continuously eating the puffed rice balls with honey. The cat's owner arrived and started beating the dog. The cat's owner came there and started beating the dog. As a reaction, the dog's owner also ran up and started beating the cat. The dog's owner came there and started beating the cat. Soon the owners were fighting and beating each other. Very soon the two owners they started fighting and beating each other. "Sir, there are two men fighting in the street. Shall I send someone to break up the fight?" "Never mind. It's not our responsibility." Now the minister asked the king, "Sir, the two men are fighting in the street. Shall I send someone to stop the fight?" The king replied, "Never mind. It's not our responsibility." Soon other people joined the fight, and the fight turned into a mob fighting in the street. The fight became a riot. The riot became a civil war. Houses were burned down. People were harmed. Soon the other people joined the fight, and the fight turned into a mob fighting. The fight became a riot. The riot became a civil war. Houses were burned. The people were harmed. The palace itself was set on fire and burned to the ground. The palace was set on fire. The king and his minister stood looking at the ruins. "Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps the split of drop of honey was our responsibility. Later, the king and minister realized it was their mistake, their wrong. Okay, children, there are few questions in your book. Children, please try to give answers. First question, this story is an allergy. If you don't know the meaning of the word, look it up. So, allergy. What is the meaning of allergy? Allergy means a story or picture which has a hidden moral message. Allergy means a story or picture which has a hidden moral message. Second question, why did the king not allow his minister to act? Why did the king not allow his minister to act? The answer is the king thought the problem could be taken care by someone else. So the answer is the king thought the problem could be taken care of by someone else. Third question, at what stage could the problem have been tackled with no harm done? At what stage could the problem have been tackled with no harm done? The answer is if the split drop of honey had been cleaned up at once, the problem could have been avoided. So the answer is if the split drop of honey had been cleaned up at once, the problem could have been avoided. Fourth question, at what stage did it become impossible to manage? At what stage did it become impossible to manage? The answer is it became impossible to manage because the palace itself was burned down and nothing more could be done. It became impossible to manage because the palace itself was burned down and nothing more could be done. So, what are the lessons you can learn from this story? What are the lessons you can learn from this story? I have a responsibility towards my city, town, or village. So, children, you have the responsibility towards your city, town, and also village. I must not pass the buck. There are many situations to pass the buck, but you should not do like that. So, I must not pass the buck. There may be no one else available to solve the problem. Next, I must not be selfish and think only of my own comfort and time. So, you should not be selfish and think your own comfort and time. Next, I must try to tackle a small problem before it becomes a large one. So, you have to try to tackle the problem before it becomes a large one. Next, I must act in time so that I won't tell myself later I could have prevented this. So, before the time itself, you have to act yourself and you have to prevent the matter. You are not yet an adult, so you cannot vote in an election, but you can still vote to keep your city clean and safe. So, children, you are not an adult to give vote in election, okay, but your duty is to vote to keep the city clean and safe in all the time, okay. Obey all the signs to keep your city clean and safe. Make similar ones to put up in school. So you have to obey all the signs in your city and keep the city safe and clean. If you see something dangerous like an electric wire lying across the street or a roadside tree that is about to fall, report it immediately. So if you see something dangerous like electric wire lying on the road or street, you can call someone and inform them. You can report it immediately. Carry out proper garbage disposal at home and in your neighborhood. So you have to throw or carry the proper garbage disposal from your home to your neighborhood to some other places in a safety place. Don't burn trash and dead leaves in your garden. So you have to keep your garden clean. You should not burn the trash and dead leaves in your garden. Pick up the mess your dog makes when you take it for a walk. So if you are taking your dog to walk, you have to pick the mess what the dog does there, okay. If you see someone throwing a burning matchstick in the park, stamp out the flame. So if you find anyone throwing a burning matchstick on the park or road, you have to stamp out the flame. If you see people fighting in the street, report it. So if you see any people fighting on the road or street, you can report to someone else. A very small child understands only his or her own happiness and pain. But as we grow older, we think more deeply and observe more carefully. We begin to realize that we can make a difference to others. We understand that as citizens, we are responsible for the safety, health, and happiness of people around us. A very small child understands only his or her own happiness and pain. But as we grow older, we think more deeply and observe more carefully. We begin to realize that we can make a difference to others. We understand that as citizens, we are responsible for the safety, health, and happiness of people around us. A small child understands happiness and pain, but she or he, when he grows older, the children think deep and observe more carefully. When the children start to realize they can make a difference to others, as citizens, we should have the responsible for the safety, health, and happiness of people around us. You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by avoiding it today, said by Abraham Lincoln. Children, we all have a responsibility to act for the common good, even if the situation that does not directly affect us at that moment. And also, there are responsibilities we all share as members of a family, of a community, and of a nation. So, children, we must be alert in every situation to see where and how we can be helpful to others. Children, with this, I like to conclude this lesson. Thank you, children.